Everyone has moments in life they can't just stop thinking about. They can be embarrassing things, like that one time you face planted in front of a group of teenagers, or something amazing like the first time you hosted your family for the holidays. And on Baby, This is Keke Palmer, hosted by me, Keke Palmer, and presented by BMW, we know to savor the good memories and let go of the bad. And one thing everyone remembers fondly is their first time behind the wheel of a BMW. So come join me and BMW this summer as we explore pop culture moments and topics you just can't stop thinking about on Baby, This is Keke Palmer. Sponsored by BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th.
We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Yeah, I'm looking at my notes for Blood Saints Clan. It's incomprehensible. Like, I wrote, the shot of Angel slightly lower than her body looking up. Nice.
Incomprehensible.
Is that supposed to remind me of something, Terry, from Saturday? I think there was like a shot, like, lower than her looking up at her, and it looked really cool, really sure, I guess. I don't even know. Fuck. Like, seriously. And it was like Saturday in the afternoon. I had my coffee.
It sounds like ambient Terry notes.
It sure did. And welcome back to Little Cuts, our weekly mini-sode where we dig into things that we've been watching and or playing recently. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth. And this week we are talking Ben Schwartz singing, an emotional sci-fi found footage, 2 video games with exploding animals, and Angel is that bitch.
She sure as fuck is.
Y'all, I am movied the fuck out.
Girl, same. I think we're like in the doldrums of like after, you know, Sundance, where you watched over 20 movies. I watched like, I don't know, between 15 and 20. Yeah, I don't even know. So I just feel like we're in that moment of like, movies are great, but also I'm a little tired of them.
I know. Like, I can't do it. And it's like there's so much coming out soon too. And I'm just
I know. I just got
the
press release for Sundance, for South by.
For South by. I know. Oh, I'm so mad that they're not doing X as an online thing now, which I'm so bummed about.
I know. I
just want to see it.
I do too. And I want to see it that everything all at once.
Everything everywhere all at once. Yeah. That A24 sci-fi. Mm-hmm. Looks so good with Michelle Yang.
Yeah, I love her.
So good.
It does look good. So before we do talk about the movies, I wanted to throw this out there that we got our first review of 2022. And they said that the friendship between the hosts is the driving force and a warmth somehow pervades every episode, and that they appreciate little cuts. And I believe, Mary Beth, that like either an episode or 2 ago, you said that if someone gave a review, you would give like a found footage recommendation. So do you have one off the cuff? Because I just sprung this on you last minute.
I do. I fucking do. I do, actually, because okay. Story behind this recommendation. I was walking to 7-Eleven before this to get my emotional support giant Coke, because that's what I love. And a song came on called Air Transylvania by Unalaska. And it's one of my favorite songs. And I know about this song because of the found footage vampire movie Afflicted, which is my recommendation because it's it's an incredible found footage movie about a guy's transformation into a vampire. But then also I found this band because they're friends with them through the movie, and I listened to the song on repeat. So, Afflicted is my found footage recommendation.
So there you go, McPodface. Thank you for your review. We truly appreciate it. And that is a good movie. I second that nomination.
Okay, I want to hear about Ben Schwartz singing, though.
Okay, so I at this point, I feel kind of like I'm a shill for Apple TV Plus, but I'm telling you, y'all, they're just putting out some really good content. And their latest thing that is, I believe this is when this episode drops will be like the second week in on it. I don't know what is time. Time is a construct.
I don't know.
Yes, this will be the second week that it started to air, and it's called The After Party. And it's created by Christopher Miller of the Lord and Miller duo that did they did 21 Jump Street. They did the Lego Movie.
Okay.
They produced Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. They're super producers. And they also direct some things and write some things together. And so The After Party is an 8-episode series that has an all-star cast of everyone from Tiffany Haddish to Sam Richardson to Ike Barinholtz to Alana Glazer to Ben Schwartz, Dave Franco, just John Early,
Good
just
Lord.
Stacked cast of comedic actors. And it takes place after a 15-year high school reunion where a famous person, Dave Franco, who is kind of like a Justin Bieber-esque type singer that has been doing pop music, is found dead. And Tiffany Haddish plays a police officer who is showing up there and interviewing people, trying to figure out who did it because someone from this after party obviously killed him. And so each episode is from one of the cast members' perspective, and it's told in a different genre. So the first episode is a romantic comedy where Sam Richardson's character, Anik, is trying to rekindle a 15-year-old romance with Zoe, played by Zoe Chow. And so it's a romantic comedy. Ben Schwartz is a fucking star in this, and his episode is literally a musical. And there's singing, dancing, all this wonderful stuff. Alana Glazer's episode that I believe is premiering the day that this episode drops is a paranoid thriller. So each episode tackles the events leading up to Dave Franco's character Xavier's death from a different genre. And it's fabulous.
Oh, that's cool as shit. And where is this streaming?
This is on Apple TV Plus.
Okay. Wait, that sounds incredible.
It's really good. Is
it all funny? It's even though they're in different genres, is it funny where they commit to the tone?
No, it's definitely thriller. It's definitely funny. Because Miller and Lord, they kind of do the sort of genre busting, making fun, not necessarily making fun, but almost taking it to the kind of parody extreme. And so I would say this is all done in that kind of tongue in cheek fashion, but it's entertaining as hell. And what a cast. That
sounds incredible. Okay. Well, I will be checking that out.
Oh yeah. It's really good. I've seen the first 6 episodes. I think there's going to be 8.
Are you recapping them?
No.
Oh, okay, cool.
No, we're putting all of our attention on Servant.
This is just for fun.
This is just for fun. This was me being I want to watch The After Party. Okay, so to go from another extreme, an emotional sci-fi found footage film. I want to hear about this. Okay,
I'm showing this to you, and no one else will see it. I'll post a picture. But it is The Midnight Swim.
Oh, yeah.
And I just got the Blu-ray literally an hour before we recorded with this beautiful cover art.
It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. I'll post a picture.
It's on Vinegar Syndrome, right?
Yeah, so Yellow Veil Pictures was releasing it with Vinegar Syndrome. So this is it's available through Vinegar Syndrome's website for $28-30. So The Midnight Swim it's from 2014. So this isn't new, but it just got it's just got this Blu-ray release, which is incredible. It's directed by Sarah Adina Smith. So it's a found footage movie directed by a woman, which is incredible. And I just spoke with her, and she is the coolest, most down-to-earth person I've ever met in my life. But The Midnight Swim is about 3 sisters who go to their childhood home after the sudden death of their mother. And while they're home, they're experiencing grief, and kind of you see the dynamics of the sisters. wall, there's something sort of supernaturally sci-fi something going on in the lake behind the house. And there's like dead birds being left places, like the camera's recording when people are asleep, like things like that. But yeah, so it's got these like creepy moments, but it's really this movie about these three sisters going through the grieving process and like the different relationships they each had with their mom, the different relationships they have with each other, and the relationships they have to grief. And it is like beautifully told with like so the youngest sister is the one filming it because she's kind of like trying to process her grief through filming, and so she's recording everything, and like so it kind of gives it a good reason for her to be filming. And it's just really beautiful. It's not like the typical super scary found footage movie, but I think it's a really awesome blend of the horror aspects and like supernatural stuff, and kind of leaving you guessing about like what's real and what's not. Like even the back of the Blu-ray release says death is not what you think. So yeah, I watched it because I was interviewing the filmmaker, and I'm in love with it. I immediately bought it on Blu-ray because I was like, this is a very special movie. It is beautifully made, and I suggest all of you check it out. It is I think it's streaming, and like you can rent it, so you don't have to buy the Blu-ray, obviously. I just crave physical media, and this cover art is gorgeous.
I mean, that's one thing you can say for Vinegar Syndrome, is their cover art is always stunning.
It's just gorgeous. And like I'm just really happy that movies like this are getting releases. Like so this got a release through Yellow Veil. Cauldron Films put out the Collingswood Story, and 1974 The Possession of Altair. Like movies that you never thought would get a Blu-ray release or be available anywhere but like shittily on YouTube are getting released.
Hell
and it
yeah.
just makes me very happy. I think there's like a big found footage resurgence happening right now, and not just in new ones, but in like the appreciation of them and like wanting to restore them. And I really love that. And like Archive 81 gave me this vibe because I finally finished it. Oh, we should talk about that. But sorry, I completely fucking forgot I watched that last week. Last week was like 6 years ago. I've fucking forgotten. But just a tangent related to found footage, and something I'm actually writing about, is how Archive 81 is integrating these aspects of found footage that are making it more mainstream again and bringing it back into the zeitgeist. Like, obviously, a lot of us have known found footage has been around, but I feel like Archive 81 and its popularity is, like, really showing off, like, really cool found footage techniques. And while, obviously, it, like, isn't all that way, there also is this emphasis on finding stuff that's lost and restoring it and preserving it, which I think found footage kind of is a testament to, both like literally and in the films, about the importance of like recorded history, even if it's small, and the importance of preserving that history and like what it means. And I think Archive 81 really brings all that forward. And even though it's not strictly found footage, I think it really kind of brings forward this issue a little bit, and I think it's really going to push stuff forward.
So since you brought up Archive 81, tell us a little bit about it. I've only seen the first episode.
Oh, you have? Okay, cool. So Archive 81 is about a guy named Dan, who is he's a video archivist and is video archivist. So he, you know, at the beginning of the show, you see him buying random videotapes off the street. And I was like, this is already my shit. This guy is buying random videotapes off the street. Where is this man? I want to buy all of his weird ass tapes. But anyway, he gets contacted to help this organization restore tapes that were in a fire. And so he has to do it in this remote location, this weird house, and he can't tell anyone about it. It's like a top secret thing. Cell phones don't work. There's like no internet. He watches like old VHS stuff, and maybe his phone will work if he's like by the fence. The house gives you control. I got control vibes from the house.
Yeah, it has like, that brutalist architecture for sure. Yes,
exactly. And so as he's restoring these tapes, these tapes are from Melody. Yeah. So these tapes are from Melody, who was trying to kind of find out what happened to her mom at the Visser apartments. But what she kind of discovers is something fucking bizarre. And the whole show is basically Dan going through all the tapes and piecing together the mystery about what happened at the apartments and kind of like trying to figure out this weird mystery going on behind it. So it's fucking weird, but it's good. I was telling Steve, I'm like, I thought that this show couldn't get any fucking weirder, but every episode that says hold my beer and something even fucking weirder happens. So, yeah, and a lot of the segments, especially in the first couple of episodes, are her filming all of it. So it's all of her footage. So it's not all. What annoyed me at parts is it's too hybrid at certain moments. That annoyed me, but that's me as a person. But again, there's lots of like cool layers of found footage of like footage that like, he's looking at her footage and then she finds footage and her footage, and it's got all those cool layers to it. And like as a person who just loves to study this stuff, it's really fascinating and really cool. I seriously think it's going to be like a cool turning point for found footage, maybe, or like a deeper integration of that technique. So,
and it was based on a podcast.
It was. I did not listen to it. I wanted to, but I just didn't. But it's really weird.
Yeah, I've only seen the first episode, and I definitely want to watch more. Time.
Yeah. So that, yeah. Sorry I shoehorned in another thing I watched and, like, totally forgot that I watched it. But, Archive 81, it's on Netflix, and, like, the hype is real. I didn't think it was going to be, but it was. Steve and I couldn't stop watching it, so.
Hell yeah.
But now I want to hear about your 2 video games with exploding animals, because that's an incredible way.
Weird. Okay, so the first one I want to talk kind of a little bit about is a game called Nobody Saves the World.
Okay.
And
I don't know if I've heard of that one.
It's published by Drinkbox Studios, developed and published by them. And Drinkbox Studios are the company that are known for Guacamelee. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so in this game, it's like a top-down Zelda game, like the original like Zelda, where it's like you're just sort of like a view above them and you're controlling a character through like a giant overworld map and there's dungeons. And the idea is that there's this big wizard, he vanishes and you are a nobody. You're almost like an empty shell of a thing. You look kind of like a white sack that has like holes kind of like cut into his head. You definitely have like no personality, nothing. You don't talk. Everyone calls you a nobody. And you find the guy's wand and it allows you to turn into things. So it takes sort of like the job system from like Final Fantasy Tactics type game, except that the jobs in this game are a rat, a slug, a horse, a mermaid, a magician. You basically go through and you level up and you can unlock these forms, and then you can mix and match abilities. And that's where the exploding animals comes in, because one of the classes that you can unlock is a magician, and he pulls rabbits out of his hat and uses them as like his minions to go kill things. But there's a passive that you can unlock because you can like start to take skills from all these different classes and sort of mix them together into whatever class you want to play. And one of the skills makes your familiars explode. So now you have rabbits that are running about, and once they hit a certain hit point threshold, just explode and do damage. But then you can also add the zombies bite to this character. And so now you're biting people and infecting with zombies. So now you have exploding zombies that are making more zombies. And you also have these rabbits that you can pull out of the hat. And then you can also take a ghost ability to make yourself invulnerable while all this is happening. And you're basically going through like a Zelda type game, destroying everything. And it's fun. I haven't finished it. And I think the fun is mostly about unlocking things. Like I've really enjoyed the kind of sort of quest system to like get levels up and like unlock more classes and stuff. So I don't know if it'll continue to be fun after I've unlocked everything, but I'm enjoying it right now. It's a lot of fun.
I want to be a slug.
The slugs are so cute. He leaves like a slime trail behind him, and if monsters step in it, it slows him down. It's really cute. It's just
slime.
It has like a lot of. It's just a really cute game. It's only on Xbox and Microsoft Windows, unfortunately. So, but it's on Game Pass. I was playing it on Game Pass. So like, I think Game Pass is one of the best deals if you own a Xbox, to be perfectly honest. But the other game, I might be taking exploding animals a little too far in this, but they do explode if this light touches them. So we're going to work with it. It's called A Plague Tale: Innocence. Have you ever heard of this one?
Yes, I have.
So this one is it's on everything. I think it's on PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. And it takes place in the 1300s, and you play this young woman named Amicia.
Okay, so this was... Okay, I was making sure this was what I was thinking of from 2019. Like, it's not older, but it's not like it's not like a... Okay, cool.
Yeah, no.
Steve played it. Steve
Oh,
played
did
it.
he? Okay. Yeah, I've been wanting to play it, and they're releasing a sequel in this year. And I was like, you know what? It's on Game Pass. This is a good time for me to play it. Of course, I started playing it, and they took it off of Game Pass yesterday, so I had to go buy the damn game because I'm enjoying it so much. But anyway, so yeah, it takes place in the 1300s.
Damn you making a good fucking video game, assholes. Did your save transfer over?
It did, yeah.
Oh, fuck. Okay, I was like...
Yeah, no, it transferred over. It's just one of those things where it's like I went to go play it, and it's like, you must insert the disc. And I was like, why must I insert the disc? And it was off of Game Pass, but like it still was on Game Pass. And so I was in this really confusing state where it's like, I can't play it, but it says it's on Game Pass, but it's not letting. Anyway, they took it off. But regardless, you play Amicia, this young French woman whose brother Hugo, who's 5 years old, has been ill since birth. She's like comes from like this lord, and they live in this castle. Like they're kind of the rich side of things. But then the Inquisition comes through, kills her family, looking for Hugo for some unknown reason. And so you take off running with Hugo. While this is all happening, there is a plague descending, but it's not just any kind of plague. It is like a plague of rats the rats are carrying it with them, as it does in the plague. But like there's like thousands of rats, and they just like swarm people and devour them in the darkness.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, I remember this because I was remember with. Whoa. Lost control of that. I was buffering. I remember Steve playing this and watching him do stuff because all of the rats and him trying to figure out the puzzles so you could walk through stuff so you wouldn't get eaten.
Yes. And so the game kind of takes place sort of like a stealth thing where you're trying to, because you're a young woman, you have a sling, you have no other weapons, and you're against like armored men. And so part of it is like being stealthy and trying to figure out how to get past like the Inquisition that's hunting for you. And then the other part of the game is dealing with the Black Plague infused rats that are just like hordes. When I say hordes, I mean like hundreds of them are on the screen at once. And
like it's like carpet. It's like moving carpet. There's no ground unless you like the light is what gets them away from their path.
Yes.
But yeah, like carpet.
And if the light touches them, they burst into flames, which is why I was going with the sort of exploding rat animal metaphor there. It works.
It works. I think it works.
And so you're like, there's places where you're in the dark and rats just sort of like descend, and you have to like figure out how to move from like torches to torches and try to figure out different ways of like moving. And it's always constantly adding new things to it, which I love. And one of the things that I thought was really cool, I'm about like 3/4 of the way through, I think, at this point. So I haven't finished it yet, but man, am I really digging this. I think some of the stealth portions, I hate stealth games. I'm not very good at them. And these are a little bit more puzzle solving. But one part that I hate is that when you get caught, it's game over. Like, there's no point in running. If you get caught, it's
that's annoying.
I'm done. And then you do the restart again. So there's like a lot of trial and error in some of those parts. And some of them did get me a little frustrated because, again, not the best at stealth. But
yeah. Oh, I hate stealth games. I'm so bad at stealth games. Nope, they're just not.
Yeah.
Stealth missions in games, nightmare.
And that's almost like, I would say about like 50% of this game is that, but I'm still enjoying it a lot. And there's some parts where like you get to do some fun things. Like there's where it includes like the Inquisition and they're walking through the rats, but they have like a light. And so they're kept at bay, and you can use your slingshot to extinguish that light. And then all of a sudden they're being swarmed.
That's right. Oh, that's right. It was just so cool.
Yeah. So
I remember being really impressed with like the creativity of ways you could get out of things. Like it's a stealth game with some really cool, like with the puzzle elements. And I'm also like very much a puzzle game person. I love puzzle games. So
yeah, so this one's doing it for me. I think the story is really interesting. I think the characters between Amicia and her brother are really interesting. There's some really cool side characters that get introduced. I'm really interested to see how this is going to play out. I really just started playing it because I know the sequel is coming out this year, and the sequel looks amazing. And so I was like, I just gotta play it. And I really recommend it. Highly recommend it. Did Steve like it?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I need to ask him again, but I remember he enjoyed it for the most part, I believe. And I didn't play it, but I watched him play a decent amount of it, and it's really, I really enjoyed the way it looked, the story, and just, I think taking a time period like that and putting it into video game form is really cool.
So yeah, that's a Plague Tale: Innocence, and the sequel,
Cool.
A Plague Tale: Requiem, is supposed to come out this year.
Requiem. Such a fancy word. Okay, so Angel is that bitch. What folk horror? So we're kicking off our folk horror segment, journey, whatever. And Terry, what movie are we starting with?
We started with the 1971 The Blood on Satan's Claw, directed by Pierce Haggard. And
We sure did.
boy, you mentioned off air that you have a lot of thoughts on this, and I mean, I would really like. Well, I guess let me give a synopsis first. So,
Yeah.
17th century England, the children of a village are slowly converting to a coven of devil worshippers, is what IMDb says, and it plays out sort of like an anthology film in a way, I would say, in that like you're following some characters and they find the remains of someone that is like it's skull and bones, but there's like an eye and there's a patch of fur.
Single eyeball.
Yeah, single eyeball and a patch of fur and a skull. And they bring the judge to the place, which I have a lot of thoughts on this aspect of the judge part. But they basically discover that there might be something spreading among the town, and it goes from kind of story to story in a way as it's like unfolding Satanism in the town.
Yeah, that's
Sort of.
yeah, because the beginning especially felt like that to me. I feel like as it got towards the end, it felt a little bit more cohesive. Like it got a little bit more cohesive, but the beginning is pretty slow because it's like it's just a lot of things happening, and it's not happening in an order that makes sense. So it does feel like an anthology, and it's hard to kind of keep track. I was having a hard time keeping track of like what was happening. I was like, wait, who? What? Yeah, I got a little lost.
Well, in the first, like, they introduced this character and his like girlfriend in betrothed that wants to marry her, maybe, and she's staying at their house, and then she ends up coming down with whatever's affecting the town, and they lock her up in the attic, and then
no, not just lock. They nail her ass into the room. They nail her ass into the room, and like all she's doing is like having like it's the usual like women in hysterics thing, which is this whole movie, and I just have so many opinions about the gender issues and dynamics in this movie that I don't know, but whatever. And they nail her into the room. Her.
Yes, like, and then they commit her, and then that's the last you see of her.
But that not until she said, like, her fiance looks at him in an incredible shot where they have her look at the camera, like, you are the guy, and I love that. She puts her hand on the banister, and it looks like a fucking sloth claw. Like, she has a claw. Yeah. And you're like... And this is, like, the first, like, 5 minutes of this movie, and I'm just like...
And then she's never seen again.
No, she's never seen again. And that guy with his berries and cream lad hair, not really ever seen again either.
Yeah.
He does. It's a terrible wig. Mm-hmm. Guys, I swear to God, I actually kind of liked this movie, but
me too.
It has some issues.
Boy, does it.
But, so, like, but once it hits, like, the real Satanism groove, I feel like it makes more sense, but it hits that groove with a horrific scene of sexual assault that I was not expecting and threw me for a goddamn loop. Yeah. Because the tone of the movie changes very, very quickly. Like, all of a sudden, it's like full-on folk horror cult movie in the woods. Mm-hmm. Like, it takes a very quick turn, which I loved, which is why I love the movie, because I think it pays off for when it gets buck wild.
Yeah.
It's just like... Ugh.
That sexual assault just really came out of nowhere, and it's filmed incredibly creepily.
It's horrible because this young woman is, like, brought into the group, which is led by Angel, who is it's an incredible performance. She's incredible. But she's, like, I think lures her there, and then it's like, oh, surprise, you're actually, like, this sexual, like, kind of sacrifice we need to make. And it's like, it's shot over his shoulder, and her face is it's in absolute terror. And it's just like...
Meanwhile, as this is happening...
What the fuck?
Yeah. And then, meanwhile, Angel is smelling her clothes and smelling shears that they're going to use to stab her. It just has a very weird It's just very weird.
That's also the scene, though, where, like, they see the devil come out of the little corner, right?
Yeah.
Out of the rocks.
Yeah.
I know the devil, like, look, it's 1974, it's not always great, but I thought that was a creepy shot when, like, his little hands were coming out of the cave. Like, there are some incredibly effective moments in this. Again, like, once things really start, like, going, it starts going absolutely bananas. But I feel like a lot of cult horror, like, or not cult, folk horror is like that. Like, there are a couple folk horror movies that I can think of that are contemporary that, like, build up to a crazy ending. So it's like, watching this, you can see how it really set up a bunch of shit for folk horror, though. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
That is the folk horror formula, and I love that, because I was like, I'm like, history is making so much sense in my brain when I'm watching this movie, which is really cool.
Yeah, this definitely feels like one of those more foundational texts for found footage. Gosh, for folk horror. Jesus, can you imagine?
I'm getting into
you
your
are.
brain.
It's like seeping in here. It's all I think about. No. So you can see, like, so where it comes from, like, the Wicker Man a few years later, and then up into, like, even I would say some of the folk horror of now. Like, this feels like there's some really cool shots in this too. I made a little joke before we were recording because my notes are messed up, but there's, like, an iconic shot of Angel, and, like, she's just sort of, the camera's, like, looking up at her, and it's the shot that is used. I think it's the one I've seen of this movie, like, all over the place.
It's like the usual image. I think it's like the iconic image from it.
And she kind of gives me, like, Billie Eilish vibes in that shot, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Billie Eilish do a folk horror movie.
She got the look.
She does. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one, but there is definitely some things about it that, like you brought up, Mary Beth, the sort of hysterical woman. That is, like, there's a lot of that in this.
There is a lot of that. There's a lot of this movie is very much woman crazy, must be stopped. Man can restore order. It's very much that movie. Like, I was trying to kind of look at it in a lens of, like, well, maybe they're trying to say something about, like, gender. They're not, though. They're not at all. Like, this is 1974 and very much like a patriarchal society is the way movie. So that, like, I get it's 1974. Like, I do totally get that. But it's, you know, when you're in this current contemporary moment, it's hard to ignore. It's like, it's impossible to ignore, because that's the whole fucking movie, is that, like, destroy women. Because, of course, the leader of the cult, who is, like, fucking the devil, is Angel, who is a teenage girl. And yeah, these are all teenagers. Like, they don't look like teenagers, but these are teenagers. Children, like, literal children. And she's the devil, essentially. And she's, like, the young fair maiden that has to be destroyed. And she's preying on all the young fair maidens, and the men can help them. And I just wanted a movie where she killed everyone and won. Not her getting stabbed to death by a pitchfork.
Yeah, or where the judge comes back, who has been, like, pops up at the beginning of the film, and he comes back and he's like, leave me to judge who is innocent, and then goes about killing everybody. And Mary Beth is flicking off the camera, which, same, to be honest.
He's just like, oh my god, at the end, the final shot is so fucking annoying, because so at the end of this movie, he's got a weird sword thing. I don't know what the fuck it was. It was some weird sword spear thing that I think he put holy water on the end of. So this, and then this has, like, the Catholicism vibes to it. And he stabs the devil and puts it in the fire. And the final shot is of this guy looking triumphant through the flames. And if that does not tell you what this movie is trying to say, then, like, I don't know what it is. Men will destroy evil, like, destroy the devil, and religion will help them do it. Like, the judge is basically, like, this bastion of masculinity and, like, religious piety because he can save them. So, like, the whole movie, they all look like dumbasses who can't do anything for themselves. And then the judge rolls up with his big funky hat, and he's like, I will save you, peasants.
Yeah.
Obviously, this movie got to me.
You know, okay, it reminded me, especially as you're talking about it right now, it reminded me of when we did, like, our Hammer deep dive.
Yes.
This feels like it's like pulled, like it's not a Hammer film, but it feels like it could have been, if it was like filmed maybe a decade earlier, Peter Cushing would have been the judge. Like it feels like if this was a Hammer film, this would be like, and I can't remember which one it was that we saw that had like the twins. Do you remember? And one of them joins and becomes a vampire. And
yes. Yes, I don't remember the name, but that's, yes. And she's like seduces people, yeah.
Yeah, and he comes in and he's sort of like the harbinger of like saving the town. It reminded me so much of a couple of those movies that we saw, like the Gorgon, like that particular one that I'm like lost what it was called. But
I'm
like,
sorry, I've no help.
Mind gone. But yeah, so like it definitely reminded me of like those films that we saw where it's like, oh, we were kind of hoping this would have been saying something about gender and about like feminism or something, but it's just that wasn't the time for it.
No, it just wasn't. And so like, you know, with that in mind, I tried to like push that out to like appreciate the movie for what it was, and I still appreciate it for sure. And if anything, it's a great kind of time. Buffering again. I'm keeping this all in when I edit too because it makes me laugh. But it's a good time capsule for how horror has evolved. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like even though right now it's completely, utterly misogynistic, and it is misogynistic, it shows you what people were scared of in the 70s. And it kind of, like, really shows off that, like, there was, like, gender concerns and, like, frustrations and the desire to reinforce these gender roles. And it's wild when you think about it, because I feel like it's so easy just to think about it from our lens of like right now, but it's just like, whew.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this because we had just talked about Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of the sort of like gender roles, and that one is set at the modern time for the 70s, but like it definitely shows sort of like the kind of maybe fear and like ways that like gender was such a huge thing. There were like in particular like the masculine roles and the feminine roles, and I definitely feel like you can kind of see that in this movie as well.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and Angel then traps one in a bear trap, and that was incredible. So
it was.
Angel is a bitch, and she's an incredible bitch. And if you like this movie, like she is worth it alone as like an iconic horror villain, and I honestly think she should be talked about more. I know she's not on it a ton, but I think she is an incredible horror villain, and she should be talked about more. I'm saying it again, but
this is a movie I'd love to see them remake and like kind of recontextualize for modern audiences. You know, do something different with it, but like recontextualize it as under a feminist gaze. I think that'd be really intriguing because there's some interesting things in here. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, it could very easily be turned into a more like an overtly feminist text. Easily.
Someone get on that, please.
Please. Yeah, that was Blood on Satan's Claw. Weird.
Yeah.
But important. And now we kind of can see where things are going with folk horror. Speaking of which, Terry, what are we watching for damn it, I'm doing it too! What are we watching next week? Just gonna say that.
So next week we're going to jump ahead a decade and we're going to watch Eyes of Fire. And I saw some GIF on Twitter and I was like, ooh, this looks like it could be fun. And the brief synopsis of this is that a preacher is accused of adultery and he and his followers are chased out of town. They become stranded in an isolated forest, which is haunted by the spirits of long dead Native Americans. So we are going to go get our eyes burned out. Eyes of Fire. I don't know. What's a good segue there?
It was the tweet that you sent me. It says, before The Witch, there was Eyes of Fire. This folk horror holy grail combines art house surrealism, gonzo creature effects, and ambitious symbolism to build a truly haunting experience. Sign me the fuck up.
Hell yeah. Right in the middle of the 1980s with like all those great practical effects. So I'm hoping this one will be good.
Stoked.
But speaking of being stoked, who are we talking to on Monday, Mary Beth?
Ooh, on Monday, we are chatting with indie game developer Daniel Mullins, who created the fantastic game that Terry and I have gushed about, Inscription. And he brought with him James and the Giant Peach.
He sure did.
Give us a listen on Monday, especially if you played Inscription. And if you haven't yet, why?
Yeah.
Come on.
I was thinking about doing like a stream of it at some point.
Do it.
To introduce people
do a
to
stream.
it.
That would be so fun.
It would be, because I know there's people that can't play it because it's not on anything other than PC.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of really cool things going on in that game. And he talks a lot about it. He talks a little bit about the ARG. He talks a lot about kind of how he came about it. So it's a great conversation. I was so glad we got to talk with him.
Me too. So, listeners, you've heard from us, but we want to hear from you. Did you watch one of the movies or play one of the games we talked about and have thoughts? Do you have suggestions for things we should be talking about? Send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us directly on Twitter. I'm at MB McAndrews.
And I'm McGeely Dreadful.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And if you want to get a recommendation from Mary Beth for a found footage film, or just because you're listening to us and you love us, give us a rating, a review, and make sure you're subscribed. We are also, I hate to no, just cut that out. I won't even talk about Spotify right now.
That's true. Oh God, fucking Jesus. Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you everyone for listening. Please stay safe out there, but most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.
Won't somebody please think of the children? Won't somebody please think of the children? Somebody please think of the children!
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room?
It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.